"Kindly let me help you or you will drown," said the monkey, putting the fish safely up a tree. We live in a world obsessed with fixing people. We try to fix our partners, correct our children, and save the world. But Alan Watts warned that this desperate need to do good is often the root of our greatest conflicts. In this comprehensive philosophical deep dive, we deconstruct the paradox of kindness. We explore why the nice person is often the most dangerous person in the room, and how true connection requires a radical shift in perception, from moral judgment to metaphysical recognition. In this video, we cover the 4 pillars of true empathy, the illusion of the stranger, why self and other are just a cosmic game of hide and seek, the irreducible rascal, why you cannot love others until you accept the villain in yourself, shadow work, the secret alliance, why you need your enemies to define who you are, the monkey and the fish, the Taoist art of wu-wei, not forcing, and why the best help is often doing nothing. We begin our inquiry with a feeling that is familiar to every single beating heart in this modern world. It is a feeling that haunts us in crowded subway cars, in bustling office buildings, and paradoxically, even when we are lying in bed next to someone we have promised to love forever. It is the ache of separation. It is the sensation that you are a tiny, isolated island of consciousness, locked inside a bag of skin, peering out at a world that is fundamentally other. You look at the faces streaming past you on the street, thousands of them, and you feel a strange, chilling distance. They are strangers, they are aliens, they have their own secret lives, their own hidden motives, their own impenetrable walls. You wonder, can anyone ever truly know me? Can I ever truly know them? This sense of isolation is the root of all our social neuroses. It is why we are defensive. It is why we are aggressive. It is why we are lonely. We feel like fragile biological machines that have been thrown into a universe that is largely indifferent, if not hostile, to our presence. We feel that we must fight to be heard, fight to be understood, fight to carve out a little space for ourselves before the darkness swallows us up. But what if I told you that this entire sensation, this feeling of being a stranger in a strange land, is a hallucination? What if the distance between you and the other is not a physical reality, but a trick of the light, an optical illusion of the ego? To understand the true nature of empathy, we must go far beyond the conventional advice of being nice or walking a mile in someone else's shoes. Those are merely moral band-aids. We need to perform surgery on the very way we perceive reality. We need to explore the first great pillar of connection, a concept the ancient Hindus condensed into 3 Sanskrit words: Tat Tvam Asi. To understand why we struggle to connect, we must look at how we define ourselves. If I ask you, who are you? You will likely give me your name, your job, your history. You will point to your body and say, "This is me." You define yourself by your boundaries. You are everything inside the skin. Everything outside the skin is not you. It is the environment. It is the world. It is other people. This creates a fundamental dualism: the self versus the world, the subject versus the object. Alan Watts called this the skin-encapsulated ego. It is the sensation that I am a little man, a homunculus, sitting somewhere behind the eyes and between the ears, driving the body like a vehicle. I look out at the world. I manipulate the world. I try to get things from the world. But this view is physically and biologically false. Consider a whirlpool in a river. You can point to the whirlpool, you can name it, you can measure its speed. But can you separate the whirlpool from the river? Can you take the whirlpool home in a bucket? Of course not. The whirlpool is not a thing separate from the river. It is a manner in which the river is moving. You are exactly the same. You are not a static entity that has been shoved into the universe. You are a process. You are a movement of the entire cosmos. You are something the whole universe is doing, at this particular place in time, just as the ocean waves. When you wave at a friend, you don't say, "The ocean has thrown a separate object called a wave at the shore." You say, "The ocean is waving." In the same way, you are the universe peopling. Why does this matter for empathy? Because if you realize that you are continuous with the external world, then the other person standing in front of you is not a stranger. They are not an alien object. They are another wave of the same ocean. They are another aperture through which the same ultimate reality is observing itself. This brings us to the most playful and profound metaphysical idea in Eastern philosophy: the concept of the world as a dramatic play, or Leela. Imagine for a moment that you are God. You are the ultimate reality. You have infinite power, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. You can do anything. But if you are honest, being infinite for eternity might get a little boring. There are no surprises. You know the ending of every movie before it starts. You win every game before you play. So, for the sheer joy of it, for the adventure, you decide to play a game. You decide to pretend that you are not God. You decide to fracture your consciousness into billions of little pieces. You decide to forget who you really are. You put on masks. You put on the mask of a poor beggar. You put on the mask of a wealthy tyrant. You put on the mask of a saint. You put on the mask of a murderer. You put on the mask of me and the mask of you. Why? So you can have the thrill of meeting yourself as a stranger. So you can experience the drama of love, the tension of conflict, the agony of loss, and the ecstasy of reunion. This is the secret that the mystics whisper. Everyone you meet is God in drag. Everyone is the ultimate self playing a specific role. When you look into the eyes of another person, whether it is your lover, your boss, or your worst enemy, you are looking at the self. It is the same consciousness that looks out of your eyes. The hardware is different, the memory banks are different, the cultural programming is different, but the light behind the eyes, the I am, is identical. This is the meaning of Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. You are the other person. You are the tree. You are the star. The separation is a necessary illusion to make the game playable, but it is not the fundamental truth. So, how do we move this from a nice philosophical idea to a visceral, life-changing experience of empathy? We must practice the look of recognition. The next time you are in a conflict with someone, or the next time you feel socially anxious at a party, try this internal shift. Look at the person in front of you. Observe their face. See the tension in their jaw. See the fear or the anger in their eyes. Instead of reacting to their mask, their personality, their harsh words, their status, try to look through the mask. Imagine that you are seeing an ancient, eternal spirit that has voluntarily decided to limit itself, to squeeze itself into this tiny, frustrated human form, just to experience what it is like to be that person. Say to yourself, "Oh, it's you. You're hiding in there. You're pretending to be this angry customer. You're pretending to be this distant father. You're doing a great job. You almost fooled me." When you hold this perspective, a strange thing happens. Your fear evaporates. How can you be afraid of yourself? Your anger softens into compassion. How can you hate someone who is just playing a role in your shared drama? You begin to see that the person shouting at you is not a monster. They are a manifestation of the universe that is currently caught in a trap of fear. They have forgotten they are God. They think they are just the mask. They are taking the game too seriously. And because you remember the game, you can be the one to break the spell. You don't have to fight fire with fire. You can look at them with a twinkle in your eye, a subtle smile that says, "I know who you really are." True empathy, in the Wattsian sense, is not an act of charity. It is not the superior person looking down on the inferior person and feeling pity. Pity is not empathy. Pity is separation. Pity says, "I am glad I am not you." True empathy is the realization of identity. It is the shock of recognizing that your own existence depends entirely on the existence of the other. Think of the relationship between the figure and the background. Can you have a white circle without a black background? No, the black defines the white defines the black. They are different, yes, but they are inseparable. You and the other are the same. You cannot be a self without an other. You define each other. You create each other. When you hurt the other, you are like a hand cutting off its own fingers. When you hate the other, you are biting your own tongue. This is why the deepest level of understanding does not require words. It requires a resonance. It requires you to drop the defense of the skin-encapsulated ego and allow yourself to flow into the other person's experience. It is terrifying at first. We are afraid that if we lower our walls, we will be destroyed. We will be overwhelmed by their pain. We will lose our identity. But the opposite is true. When you realize that you are the ocean, not the wave, you lose nothing by merging with another wave. You gain everything. You gain the capacity to feel the entire range of human experience without being trapped by it. We have laid the metaphysical foundation. We have established that the stranger is an illusion and that we are all masquerading variations of the one self. But this brings us to a sticky problem. If we are all God, if we are all the divine self, why are some people so awful? Why are there liars, cheats, murderers, and perhaps most annoying of all, hypocrites? How do we empathize with the parts of humanity and the parts of ourselves that are undeniably nasty? To answer this, we must descend from the high spiritual peaks into the muddy swamps of human psychology. We must confront the rascal. We must look into the shadow. This leads us to the second pillar of empathy, the element of irreducible rascality. We move now from the cosmic heights of "we are all God" down to the gritty, messy reality of the dinner table. We move from metaphysics to psychology. In our quest for empathy, we often assume that the goal is to become a better person. We think that if we could just purify ourselves of all anger, all jealousy, all greed, and all selfishness, we would finally be able to love our neighbors perfectly. We strive to be saints. We strive to be the person who never loses their temper, who always says the right thing, who smiles with beatific patience when someone spills red wine on the white carpet. But Alan Watts warned us against this aspiration with a twinkle in his eye and a very serious undertone. He warned us against the plastic saint. You know this person. Perhaps you have tried to be this person. They are relentlessly nice. They are aggressively understanding. They never admit to having a dark thought. And yet, when you are around them, you do not feel relaxed. You feel tense. You feel judged. You feel that their goodness is a cold, hard surface upon which you can find no foothold. Watts observed that people who are unconscious of their own dark side are not just annoying, they are dangerous. Because if you do not know where your own evil lies, you will inevitably see it in everyone else. This brings us to the second pillar of true connection, acknowledging the irreducible rascal. To truly understand another human being, you must first make peace with the fact that you are, in some irreducible part of your soul, a scoundrel, a rogue, a rascal, and so is everyone else. And that is perfectly okay. To understand why being good destroys empathy, we must look at the mechanism of projection. The human psyche is like a house with a bright living room and a dark basement. In the living room, the persona, we keep all the traits that society applauds: kindness, generosity, politeness, hard work. In the basement, the shadow, we shove all the traits that society condemns: lust, laziness, cruelty, cowardice, arrogance. We lock the basement door. We pretend the basement doesn't exist. We say, "I am a good person. I am not like them." But the basement does not disappear just because you lock the door. The shadow is alive. It has energy, and like steam in a pressure cooker, it needs a way out. Since it cannot come out the front door, conscious acknowledgement, it leaks out the side window. It projects itself onto the neighbors. This is why we hate certain people instantly, viscerally, and often irrationally. When you look at a colleague and think, "My God, he is so arrogant, I can't stand him." Pause for a moment. Why does his arrogance trigger such a violent reaction in you? It is because his arrogance is vibrating at the same frequency as the arrogance you have locked in your own basement. You hate him because he is acting out the part of yourself that you are not allowed to live. This is the great barrier to empathy. We cannot understand the bad behavior of others because we are busy denying that same potential in ourselves. We turn the other person into a monster so we can remain the hero. We use them as a garbage can for our own repressed darkness. The plastic saint has no empathy for the sinner because the saint is terrified of the sinner within himself. He must punish the sinner out there to reassure himself that the sinner is not in here. Alan Watts proposed a radical solution. Stop trying to be perfect. Admit that you are a rascal. He called this the element of irreducible rascality. He argued that in every human being, even the holiest of holy men, there is a spark of mischief, a touch of the rogue, a biological imperative to survive and get one's way. This rascality is not a mistake. It is the manure that makes the flower grow. You must realize, Watts would say, that you are a distinct combination of tubes and pipes, and these pipes have to be filled. You have to eat. You have to compete for space. You have sexual desires. You have a profound self-interest. To deny this is to deny your humanity. A person without a shadow is not a human. They are a two-dimensional cardboard cutout. They have no depth. When you accept your own rascality, when you can look in the mirror and say, "Yes, I am sometimes selfish. Yes, I am sometimes a coward. Yes, I have thoughts that would get me arrested," a profound shift occurs. You lose the high horse. You cannot look down on others from a position of moral superiority because you know you are made of the same clay. You realize that the thief, the liar, and the cheat are not alien species. They are simply people who are handling their tubes and pipes a little less skillfully than you are at the moment. This is the birth of genuine compassion. Compassion does not come from looking down and saying, "Oh, you poor thing, let me help you up." That is arrogance. Compassion comes from looking across and saying, "Ah, yes, I know that hunger. I know that fear. I have been there. I am there." Watts often used the analogy of the drinking companions. Imagine two people sitting at a bar. One is a plastic saint. He sits straight, he sips water, he talks about high morals. He judges everyone in the room. You cannot relax around him. You have to. Watch your words. There is no connection. The other is a man who turns to you and says, "God, what a mess I made of things today. I'm a bit of a fool, aren't I?" And you laugh and say, "You think you're a fool? Let me tell you what I did." In that moment, the barriers drop. The masks come off. You are two rascals sharing the absurdity of the human condition. There is warmth there. There is love there. This is the fellowship of the flawed. We connect through our cracks, not our armor. We love people not for their perfection, but for their vulnerability. We trust people who own their shadows. Think about it. Who do you trust more? A, the politician who claims he has never made a mistake, never told a lie, and lives only to serve the public? B, the friend who says, "Look, I can be greedy sometimes, and I have a temper, but I'm trying my best not to hurt you." You trust person B. Why? Because you know where their rascal is. It's out in the open. You can see it. You can negotiate with it. Person A is hiding their rascal, and a hidden rascal is a dangerous rascal. You know it will stab you in the back the moment you turn around. So how do we practice this pillar of empathy? We practice shadow work in real time. The next time you feel a surge of judgment or hatred towards someone, treat it as a red flashing light on your dashboard. Do not look at them. Look at the feeling. Ask yourself, what does this judgment say about me? If you hate someone for being lazy, ask yourself, where in my life am I exhausted? Where do I secretly wish I could be lazy, but I don't allow myself? You are likely jealous of their freedom to rest. If you hate someone for being attention-seeking, ask yourself, where do I feel unseen? Where is the part of me that wants to dance on the table and scream, look at me, but I repress it? When you find the seed of the trait in yourself, the hatred dissolves. It is replaced by understanding. You stop seeing them as a bad person and start seeing them as a mirror. You can then say to them, silently or aloud, I see you. You are acting out the part of the drama that I am afraid to play. Thank you for showing me my shadow. This does not mean you have to condone bad behavior. You can still set boundaries. You can still put the thief in jail, but you do it without malice. You do it without self-righteousness. You do it like a surgeon removing a tumor, cleanly, effectively, without hating the tumor. By acknowledging the irreducible rascal within, we descend from the pedestal of moral superiority. We join the human race again. We realize that we are all, as Watts would say, quaking messes of sensitivity, trying to navigate a complex world with limited equipment. We admit that we are all in the same boat, and the boat is leaking. This shared vulnerability is the glue of empathy. But now that we have established that I am you, part 1, and I am a rascal too, part 2, we face a new question. If we are all connected and we are all flawed, how do we deal with the inevitable conflicts that arise? How do we understand the people who are not just annoying, but who seem to be our enemies? How do we make sense of the fact that the world seems built on opposition, light versus dark, good versus evil, self versus other? This leads us to the third pillar, the principle of mutual interdependence. We must learn why you need your enemy to define who you are. We have explored the idea that you are the universe, part 1, and that you are a rascal, part 2. Now we must face the battlefield. We live in a world of conflict. We see politics divided into left and right. We see nations divided into us and them. We see our personal lives divided into people I like and people I can't stand. Our instinctive reaction to this conflict is the desire to win. We want the light to defeat the darkness. We want the good guys to wipe out the bad guys. We dream of a utopia where everyone agrees with us, where everyone is nice, where there is only pleasure and no pain, only up and no down. We spend our lives trying to saw the crest of the wave off from the trough. We try to keep the top and throw away the bottom. But Alan Watts offers a startling insight here, drawn from the core of Taoist philosophy. You cannot have a one-sided coin. If you succeed in eliminating the bad, you will simultaneously eliminate the good. If you destroy your enemy completely, you destroy yourself. This brings us to the third pillar of empathy, mutual interdependence. To understand the person who opposes you, you must realize that at a deep, hidden level, they are not your destroyer, they are your definition. You are in a secret conspiracy with your enemy to keep the drama of life going. Let us look at nature. Watts loved the example of the flower and the bee. If you look at them superficially, they seem like two totally different things. The flower is stationary, colorful, and smells nice. The bee is mobile, fuzzy, and makes a buzzing sound. They look as different as a rock and a bird. But if you look deeper, you realize that there are no flowers without bees to pollinate them, and there are no bees without flowers to feed them. So, are they two things, or are they one system? They are a single organism, a bee-flower system. They grow together, they rise and fall together. The existence of one implies the existence of the other. Now apply this to the human world. Apply this to self and other. We feel that I am inside my skin and you are outside my skin. I can exist without you. Indeed, sometimes I wish you didn't exist so I could have more space. But this is false. Just as the flower implies the bee, the subject, knower, implies the object, known. You cannot be a self in a vacuum. If there were no others, no society, no parents, no friends, no enemies, you would not know who you were. You would have no boundaries to define you. You would be a shapeless blob of consciousness. The other, even the annoying, hostile other, provides the hard surface against which you can bounce your own identity. They tell you where you end and the world begins. This gets even more interesting when we look at moral conflict. We think we want to get rid of the bad guys, but consider the police. A police officer's identity is defined by fighting crime. He wakes up in the morning, puts on his uniform, and goes out to catch criminals. He feels like a good guy. But suppose he succeeds. Suppose he catches every single criminal. Suppose crime is totally eradicated forever. What happens to the police officer? He loses his job. He loses his function. He loses his identity. Policeman creates criminal, and criminal creates policeman. They are, in a very strange way, partners. They are dancing together. They need each other to exist. If you are a peace activist, you need a warmonger to protest against. If you are a rebel, you need a tyrant to rebel against. When you realize this, your attitude toward your enemy changes. You stop seeing them as an accidental error in the universe that needs to be erased. You start seeing them as the necessary other pole of your reality. The North Pole may be very far from the South Pole. They may be opposites, but if you cut the magnet in half to get rid of the South Pole, you don't get a magnet with only a North Pole. You get a smaller magnet with a new South Pole. This explains why in human history, every time a revolution overthrows a tyrant, the revolutionaries eventually become the new tyrants. The polarity reasserts itself. So, does this mean we stop fighting? Does empathy mean we just let the bad guys do whatever they want because it's all one system? No, that is a misunderstanding of non-duality. The flower does not try to be the bee. The white pieces in chess do not try to help the black pieces. They fight, they compete. That is the game. But, and this is the crucial distinction, they fight with sporting spirit. Alan Watts talks about the difference between a fight to the death and a game. In a fight to the death, total war, you want to annihilate the other. You hate them. You dehumanize them. In a game, chivalry, you try to win, but you respect the opponent. You shake hands before and after. You follow rules. Why? Because you know that without a good opponent, the game is boring. Imagine you are the best chess player in the world. Who do you want to play against? A toddler? No, that's no fun. You want to play against a grandmaster. You want someone who will push you, threaten you, and almost beat you. You love your opponent because they bring out your brilliance. True empathy in conflict is realizing that your difficult boss, your political rival, or your ex-partner is your grandmaster. They are challenging you. They are forcing you to develop patience, courage, boundaries, and clarity. They are the grit that polishes your stone. When you see them this way, you can oppose them firmly, but without hatred. You can say, I disagree with you completely and I will stop you, but I honor the role you are playing in my life. This brings us back to the metaphysical view. Why is the universe built this way? Why the duality? Watts suggests it is because the universe loves contrast. You cannot know light unless you know dark. You cannot know pleasure unless you know pain. You cannot know the thrill of being found unless you have been lost. If you were God and you could dream any dream you wanted, eventually, after dreaming of perfect bliss for 1 billion years, you would say, tonight, let's have a surprise. Let's dream that I am not in control. Let's dream that I am terrified. Let's dream a battle. You create the enemy to make the adventure real. Therefore, the person who is causing you suffering right now is, in the deep logic of the dream, a mask of your own self, providing exactly the resistance you need to wake up. How do we practice this? The next time you are faced with an enemy, someone who blocks you, insults you, or opposes you, try this internal maneuver. Feel the resistance. Notice the anger. Acknowledge the rascal in you that wants to smash them. That's part 2. Zoom out. Shift your perspective to the system view. See yourself and this person as 2 poles of a magnet. The silent bow. Internally, in your mind's eye, bow to them. Say, "Thank you for being the resistance I need. Thank you for defining me. You are playing the villain so I can play the hero. What a heavy mask you are wearing for my sake." This changes your vibration entirely. You stop fighting with desperate anxiety. You start dancing with the problem. You become like a judo master, using the opponent's energy rather than crashing into it. You become cool. Not cold-hearted, but cool in the sense of detached engagement. You play the game, but you don't lose your soul to it. We have now dismantled the illusion of the stranger, part 1. We have befriended the rascal within, part 2. We have recognized the secret alliance with the enemy, part 3. We are almost there. We have the mindset of the sage, but there is one final trap. The trap of the do-gooder. Once we have all this empathy, our instinct is to rush out and save the world. We want to fix people. We want to force our new understanding down their throats. We want to be the savior. But Alan Watts warns that the kindly person who tries to change others without understanding the flow of nature causes more destruction than a hurricane. We must learn the final, most delicate art, Wu Wei, non-forcing. We must learn how to help by not helping. We must learn when to interfere and when to let the mud settle by itself. We arrive now at the final and perhaps most subtle trap in the journey of empathy. We have realized that we are all one, part 1. We have accepted our inner rascal, part 2. We have learned to respect our enemies, part 3. Naturally, a tremendous amount of energy is released. We feel expansive, we feel loving, and our immediate impulse is, I must do something. I must save the world. I must fix my husband. I must correct my children. I must enlighten my friends. We become the do-gooder. But Alan Watts issued a severe warning about the do-gooder. He often said that if you see a person coming toward you with the intent of doing you good, you should run for your life. Why? Because there is no one more dangerous than a person who is convinced of their own righteousness and who is determined to impose their version of happiness on you, whether you like it or not. This brings us to the 4th and final pillar of empathy, Wu Wei, or the art of non-interference. It is the understanding that true empathy often involves doing nothing. It involves stopping the desperate need to fix things. It involves the humility to realize that you might not know what is best for the other person. Watts loved to tell a fable to illustrate the catastrophe of ignorant empathy. Once upon a time, a great flood occurred in the jungle. A monkey, nimble and lucky, scrambled up a high tree to safety. He looked down at the raging waters below and saw a fish struggling against the current. The monkey, filled with genuine compassion and a desire to help, thought, "Oh, that poor creature, it is going to drown in all that water." So the monkey risked his life. He climbed down the branch, reached into the dangerous flood, snatched the fish, and scrambled back up to the safety of the tree. He placed the fish gently on the dry bark. "There," the monkey said, puffing with pride, "I have saved you." Of course, the fish gasped, flopped around in agony, and died. The monkey, scratching his head, said, "What a pity. Despite my heroic efforts, he didn't make it." This story is funny, but it is also tragic because it describes 90% of our human relationships. The monkey assumed that what was good for him, dry land, air, was good for the fish. He projected his own nature onto the other. He had empathy, he felt the struggle, but he lacked understanding. He didn't know the nature of the fish. Therefore, his help was actually murder. How often do we do this? Parents do it to children. You must become a doctor because I value security, pulling the fish up the tree. Partners do it to each other. You must be more social and go to parties because I feel alive in crowds, pulling the introvert fish into the air. Societies do it to cultures. You must adopt our system of government because it works for us. We constantly try to fix people. But notice the word fix. You fix a machine, you fix a clock, you fix a car. But a human being is not a machine. A human being is an organism. If a machine is broken, you can use a wrench to force a bolt into place. But if you try to force a flower to bloom by pulling open its petals with a pair of pliers, you destroy the flower. Empathy without wisdom is violence. It is an imposition of the ego disguised as charity. The do-gooder is often just an egoist who wants to feel powerful by molding the world into their own image. So, what is the alternative? It is the Taoist principle of Wu Wei. Wu Wei is often translated as non-action, but a better translation is not forcing. It means going with the grain. It means acting in accordance with the nature of the thing you are dealing with. If you want to help the fish, you don't pull it out of the water. You might clear the debris from the stream so the water flows better. You work with the water, not against it. In relationships, Wu Wei means replacing the question, how can I change this person, with the question, who is this person and what do they need to grow according to their own nature? It requires a profound passivity, not the passivity of laziness, but the passivity of a mirror. A mirror does not try to fix your face, it simply reflects it. And by reflecting it accurately, it allows you to see yourself and make your own adjustments. The practical application of this is deep listening. When someone comes to you with a problem, the monkey mind immediately wants to solve it. Oh, you're sad? Have you tried yoga? Have you read this book? You should leave him. This is noise. This is the monkey chattering. The sage practices Wu Wei. The sage listens. You sit there. You are present. You don't interrupt. You don't judge. You don't offer a solution unless asked. You become a container for their chaos. Alan Watts likened this to clearing muddy water. If you have a jar of muddy water, how do you clear it? Do you stir it with a spoon to push the mud down? No. Stirring just keeps it muddy. You have to leave it alone. You have to trust gravity. If you let it be, the mud settles by itself and the water becomes clear. People have their own internal intelligence. They have their own gravity. If you let them be, if you offer them a space of non-judgmental acceptance, their mud will settle. They will find their own solution. And the solution they find for themselves will be infinitely better than the solution you try to force upon them. This brings us to the core of the matter. Trust. To practice Wu Wei, you must trust the universe. You must trust that the other person has a Buddha nature inside them. You must trust that they are on their own valid path, even if that path involves suffering, mistakes, and stumbling. The do-gooder does not trust. The do-gooder thinks, if I don't intervene, this person is doomed. I am the only thing standing between them and disaster. That is the ultimate arrogance. Empathy means respecting the other person's dignity enough to let them make their own mistakes. It means standing by the riverbank, ready to help if they ask, but not jumping in and dragging them out just because you are afraid of the water. We have now completed the circle. Let us look at the transformed human being who has integrated all four pillars. They see the one. They look at you and know you are God in a mask. They feel no fundamental separation. They own the rascal. They don't pretend to be perfect. They are humble, humorous, and approachable. They don't judge your darkness because they know their own. They dance with the enemy. They don't try to annihilate opposition. They play the game of life with sporting spirit, valuing the contrast. They practice Wu Wei. They don't force their help on you. They wait, they listen, they move with the current. This person is what Mahayana Buddhism calls a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is someone who could vanish into the bliss of nirvana, but chooses to stay in the messy world of form. Why? For the fun of it, for the love of it. They are not heavy, they are light. They are not serious, they are sincere. They walk through the world like a breeze. They touch people and people feel healed, not because the bodhisattva did something to them, but because the bodhisattva saw them. The bodhisattva looks at the fish and says, "Swim, my friend, enjoy the water." The bodhisattva looks at the bird and says, "Fly, my friend, enjoy the air." They let everything be what it is, and in that total acceptance, love flourishes. So here is your first aid kit for the next time you feel disconnected or frustrated with humanity. When you feel lonely, remember Tat Tvam Asi. You are the universe looking at itself. You are never alone because there is nothing outside of you. When you judge, remember the rascal. Look for the trait in your own basement. Laugh at yourself. When you fight, remember the magnet. Bow to your opponent for defining you. When you want to save, remember the monkey. Don't put the fish in the tree, just be there. The world doesn't need more people trying to save it with tight fists and gritted teeth. The world needs people who can love it, enjoy it, and play with it. Stop trying to be a saint. Start being a human. Stop trying to fix the song. Start singing it. The curtain falls. The play continues. And you, my friend, have a wonderful role to play.